Can you see how formal I am?
All right. Well, hello and welcome to Phoenixville Public Library and our program tonight on the nuts and bolts of creating a podcast, crafting a podcast with one of Phoenixville Library's own, Dan Yowell, and his friend and fellow podcaster, Greg Harr. Great to have you both here, and take it away, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks, y'all, for coming out. I'm actually really glad we got kind of a small group here. If this was a giant crowd, I don't think we'd actually have a very valuable conversation. So if you want to interrupt and ask a question, or if you're bored, throw a water bottle at me or whatever, we'll move on. I don't know, do you have anything you want to say, Joe?
No, just have fun.
All right. How to craft a podcast. Parenthetical that people might actually want to listen to. That's always the catch. Like I said earlier, I'll say it again now that we have the camera going. Hi, camera. Podcasting is the new radio. It feels a little cringy to say that it's an art form, but I do think it's an art form. You can play with people's ear holes a lot. You can do a lot with just audio storytelling. And there are a million people who think that they're more interesting than they are, who sit in their basements and yell into a microphone, and then who upload unedited, unproduced, raw audio onto the internet, and call that their podcast, and are shocked when nobody listens, or when they have 5 listeners, or whatever. If you want to make a podcast that people might actually listen to, that's what I would like to talk about. What is that effort that takes it that one extra step? How can you be intentional about crafting a thing that actually draws an audience in? I said it a little earlier, I am not interested in talking about marketing. There are plenty of blogs that are happy to charge you $40 to teach you how to market. I'm not going to try to do that because honestly it's kind of a black box to me. I would like to focus on the object itself, how to make a podcast, how to craft something. So, a little bit about us. I guess I'll go first. My name is Dan Yowell. Back in 2020, me and Greg were a little stir crazy at home, and we decided to take a shot at making a podcast called Stabby. That's a exploitation, sexploitation, 60s, 70s, 80s era style grindhouse movie appreciation podcast where there's a lot of people out there that like those kinds of films, and when they make media around them, they tend to spend the entire time talking about how raunchy and crazy is this. But none of them actually take them seriously as historical artifacts or as art objects, or to appreciate them as cinema and the history of cinema that often gets overlooked. So we started a kind of a comedy podcast that is willing to get a little filthy with cinema history and see what comes out of it, see what came out of that. It was after about 3 years of working on that I had the opportunity to produce Ordinary Unhappiness. So I've been doing that for I think it's coming on 3 years now. Ordinary Unhappiness is very different. It's an academic podcast about psychoanalysis, psychology, politics, philosophy. I make it with 2 very smart, not that you're not smart, you're very smart. I make it with 2 very smart academic friends of mine. That's now consistently been in the top 1.5% performing podcasts globally. We've been shouted out by The Guardian, The New York Times, New York Magazine, The New Yorker, just about all the publications. I think a full third of our audience is in New York City, it feels like. It's assigned on college curricula around the world as supplementary material in philosophy and psychology courses. I'm really, really proud of that work, and that feels really good. And then recently, I started participating in Greg's newest project. So, yeah, Greg.
Yeah, so Greg's Cryptid Corner was a podcast that kind of spun off from Stabby, where we kind of joked about doing it. Oh, we'll do it as a Patreon bonus, and we never got around to doing any of that, so we just made it a show. We recorded our first episode, and we were like, this was really fun. Let's just keep doing this as a real thing. And it kind of came because I like horror movies, I like cryptids and monsters, and we just rolled with it. And I kept bringing it up in our other show, so we might as well start a new one. And kind of the whole point was more of a storytelling concept of, instead of just regurgitating information, it's how can we make this feel like the listener can also be involved, or they're along with us. So I get to do shows on the 2 things that I like in the world, movies and monsters. So it worked out for me.
So that's a little bit about us and the projects we're working on. So let's dive into today's talk. So you want to make a podcast? Maybe don't. Take that into consideration. Maybe don't. The podcasting environment today is insane. It's absurd where it's at right now. 4.57 million podcasts worldwide. Just in the last 3 months, almost 500,000 have been published. There's a lot of active stuff out there, and it's not only are we competing with other podcasts. I'm not saying this to actually stomp on your dreams. Make a thing. At the end of this, I'm telling you, make a thing. Just do it. But I'm just saying, you're not only competing with a billion hours of content floating around on the internet, you are also competing with, what, 4.5 billion active YouTube viewers that will pop a video on and throw that in their pocket, walk around with the dog or whatever. Like, there's so much media that at the end of the day is sonic media, that they can wash their dishes and have this thing running in the back. All of Netflix, all of HBO. You're competing with a lot of stuff. So I wouldn't step into this looking to find a massive audience right away. I would step into this as a creative exercise that you can grow with. On that level, if you're finding value out of it, you're halfway there. Like to me, that is the beautiful thing of this, is that, you get to do something creative and flex some creative energy, and who knows, like we discovered, who knows what opportunities it opens up. You might stumble into an audience like we somehow did. So if you still want to try, we've got some tips. Number one, you've heard most of these things before, so I'm going to try to breeze through them so we can save more of our time for the end, for like question and answer, and I would love to show you guys some of the tools that we use, like mechanically, what are you clicking to make a thing. But first, find a subject. A good question to ask yourself is, what do you know well enough to talk about for hours? That's really important. If you don't know what you're talking about, I can't swear. You're very out of luck. You're going to find yourself up a tree. It's something that you're passionate about. That's really important. I don't know, do you have anything else to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think like it depends on what niche you're going for. So like we did movies and there we go. I forgot this one. Next one. We do movies and Cryptid. So each episode is a movie or a creature that we can talk about. And until we run out of that stuff, or we have something to talk about, I couldn't necessarily have an opinion podcast because I have two opinions. Like I'd run out pretty quick. So it's kind of like, yeah, like Dan said, it's got to be something that or you're researching every week to bring something new to it, and you are able to provide something beneficial for the listener.
That's a really good segue to find a niche. So once you find a topic, I think you're going to find if you do, I don't know, I'm going to try to make an example out of this. It's a little absurd. You could say, I'm going to do a podcast about office equipment, right? Sure, office equipment, lots of people are interested in that. But if you were to release a podcast about paper fixatives, paper clips and binder clips and glues and things like that, there are going to be people out there that are looking for office equipment podcasts, and there are going to be 100,000 of them. There are going to be people out there that are looking for paperclip podcasts, and they will stumble onto yours, and they will listen to yours. It's more statistically likely that they're going to listen to yours about paper fixatives before they're going to listen to any of the other 100,000 office supply podcasts. So not only is finding a niche really important for kind of narrowing down the competition, whatever space you're competing in, but also when you find a niche, it's a really good way to start identifying niches that neighbor the one that you picked for yourself. And that's because after 200 hours of talking about one topic, you're gonna run out of material. Depending on what you're talking about, you're gonna run out of material. And if you have a little neighboring niche, I've talked about paper clips for this long, I wanna talk about paper, or whatever, to find that like next thing. Once you find a niche, there's gonna be like a honeycomb of interests that go out from there, and you can gradually start, not only explore, like expanding the concept that first birthed this podcast, but you'll also be expanding into new audiences and introducing an old audience to like new concepts. So niche, useful for finding an audience, useful for shoehorning your way into being easier to select from a certain like fewer number of people, and also really useful for that like honeycomb of surrounding topics. I hope that all makes sense. Anything out of that?
Yeah, I think a niche is where you're going to actually be engaging with an audience opposed to kind of a 4-quadrant, you're hitting everybody, you're trying to hit everybody, because you're not going to interest everybody. So if you can really pinpoint into a topic that excites you, that'll come across to your listener.
The narrower the better. Next up, find a voice. How do you present yourself? A really good example of this that I like to think about a lot. Because, believe it or not, I'll start with this. When you sit down, when you think about the material, physical reality of your body in a room with a microphone talking alone, it's weird. It's weird, and it takes some getting used to. And usually, like, I don't want to generalize, but like the first few times that I did it, I did not recognize myself when I played it back. I was putting on a character I didn't know I was putting on, which is accidental. It's not intentional. So when I say find a voice, I mean a really good story that I like to think about. There are two academic friends of mine who co-taught a class, and that they were both in front of the class at the same time. And they knew if we go into this unprepared or without a plan, we're going to be talking over each other all the time. We're going to be bumping into each other. So how can we differentiate the roles that we play in a way that also kind of predetermines what angles of the material am I going to take and what angles of the material are you going to take? And I don't know if you're familiar with like Joseph Campbell's Man of a Thousand Faces or Carl Jung's archetypal theory. They ended up with kind of approaching it from like a perspective of genre, where one of the professors said, I'm going to be the bumbling fool who also says wise things from time to time. And then the other professor said, I'm going to be the protagonist. I'm getting Discord messages. I'm going to be the protagonist that the bumbling fool undercuts in order to make points. And that way, for the rest of the semester, every time they walked into the room, they both knew what role they were going to be playing. You kind of knew the protagonist was going to start. You kind of knew that the bumbling fool was going to say something funny at the end. And it's like way easier for the two people to hand off ideas in that conversation. So when I say find a voice, like what role do you want to fill in this podcast? What kind of character are you playing? Because there are definitely going to be days where you don't want to record, and if you have like a new pair of pants you slip on every time you step up in front of that microphone, it makes the job so much easier. Like so much easier. Anything that you listen to that I'm on, I don't want to speak for you, you're really not hanging out with me, you're hanging out with this character Dan that I play on the microphone. I'm actually very sad to no. Yeah. Anything to add to that?
No, I think character is important.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you kind of find out who you are behind the microphone is when you can start having fun.
Yeah.
You're not nervous anymore. You just hone in on, on Stabby. I'm the one that likes trash films. So like, I lean real hard on that. Yeah. Dan calls me the raccoon with the top hat.
Yeah.
So it's your voice, and it depends on if you're doing it with one person or three people or however many. If it's by yourself, I would struggle with that personally. But you can still have a voice, and you can still play the voice, the character that you want to be.
So just as important to finding a voice, find a style. How does your podcast present itself? Just like how you present yourself. A really good metaphor for this is fashion. If you were to close your eyes and imagine whatever this thing is that you're imagining, this idea for a podcast, what is it wearing? Is a good question to ask yourself. Is it wearing tweed? Is it a sweater vest? Is it a top hat? Is it not wearing anything at all? Is it a cheerleading outfit? Is it jeans and a t-shirt? Is it smoking a cigarette? Like those kinds of things, once you start kind of an image of if I was to meet this thing in an alley, would I be scared of it? Would I be like excited to see it? Those kinds of questions are going to help settle in your mind a tone that later in the production, that we're going to get into in a little bit, when you actually start doing minute-to-minute problem solving and making decisions while processing audio, your answers will come faster because you've already met this thing in your head. You have this like fleshed out concept of the personality of this thing that we're working with. That helps us, again, I think the key word, intentionality. Be intentional. It will help you be intentional. You're not going to stumble into something that feels cohesive. If you're planning it out, if you're really working hard, if you know what you're thinking about, it's just going to make your job easier. So, anything to add to that?
No, I think you're
awesome. Examples. We do a couple of these. We're going to do some active listening. So, what is active listening? We're going to try to listen to this like audio engineers and like producers. So, question one that you want to ask yourself when we're listening to some of these clips, literally, what am I hearing? And not just, it's a dude talking. No, like, do you hear echo in the room? Are there papers shuffling on the desk? Can you hear the hosts touching each other? Sometimes you can, if you're listening. You can hear like a brush on the shoulder or something like that. Is there music swelling in the background? Then, when you start noticing some of these things slipping through the microphone, you can start imagining, like, what's the kind of room that they're in? Is it two mics across the desk from each other? Or are these two people recording over Zoom hundreds of miles away? Which can also kind of start to solve for, like, why is the energy weird? Or, oh, maybe that's why their, like, camaraderie is coming through in a certain way. They can't see each other's faces. After you really start to notice what is it I'm hearing, you should ask yourself, what decisions were made that led to hearing this? The decision to have a co-host that's hundreds of miles away will lead to this thing sounding a certain way. The decision to, when you're editing a podcast, leaving breaths in between sentences. Lots of producers cut them out. If you want to sound like NPR, cut out all the breaths, and you will sound like a voice of God NPR kind of broadcaster. If you want to sound like a friend hanging out with that parasocial kind of an angle for a podcast listener, leave those breaths in and get close to the microphone so you have that like proximity effect. But so as you're hearing that stuff, you hear, oh, I hear that like proximity thing. It sounds like they're in my ear. I wonder if somebody chose that sound because they want some kind of an emotional connection. Whatever it is, notice what you're listening to. Ask yourself what decisions could have led to this decision, and then finally ask, is it working? Does it feel sloppy? Does it feel intentional? If it feels intentional, is it working? Does this work for the product that they're trying to put out? I hope that all makes sense. So we're going to go in blind. We're going to listen to a sample. I'll let it roll for a little while, and then we'll talk about what we just listened to.
And the hotter it gets.
But I mean, I have to sit there a long time to let it get hot.
It never gets real hot, though.
Never gets real hot.
Yeah,
That's right.
You've got a leak, I believe.
Is this expensive?
Well, it depends. I mean,
Depends on what's leaking.
the leak could be a blown head gasket or it could be a loose hose clamp. So the range is anywhere from $1,000 to $3.
Well, let's pray for the blown.
So let's pray
Good.
for the leaking hose clamp.
Yeah.
All right, we'll pray for the Browns too.
All right. Good luck.
Thanks for
Hey,
calling.
remember when you're praying, don't forget your buddies Tom and Ray.
All right.
Bye-bye.
It's always good to have an insider
It
information.
sure is.
Yeah.
1-888-CAR TALK. That's 888-227-8255. Hello, you're on Car Talk.
Hi, this is Marion from Port Washington, New York.
So what's cooking, Marion?
So I have this Corolla.
Okay, that was just a clip. What'd you all hear?
Well, the Carter brothers, Tom and Ray. But
Famous Car Talk brothers.
I
Yeah.
heard that one.
In a minute.
Long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get into why I just played that, but what else did you hear? We're active listening. We're picking this thing apart. What worked, what didn't work? What are you noticing?
I could hear the breaths. I was actually listening to the breaths. I
Mhm.
did hear some of that. Very conversational flow.
Totally, yeah. They have like a vibe with each other, for sure.
Yeah. Not talking at someone. It's always weird.
I had what didn't work for me was like I don't know the background of this, but one person is starting from a studio, I guess, with a good quality microphone, and the other person is like calling from somewhere.
Right.
But there's a lot of overlaps. It's like I'm missing the conversation because of one person talking over the other.
Makes it kind of difficult to understand. Yeah. How would you how formal would you describe what we just heard?
It's just casual.
Yeah. Like if this podcast was wearing something, what would you imagine this thing wearing? Flannel?
with oil stains on it.
So yeah, t-shirt, sneakers.
Yeah.
Yes, like very casual. I wouldn't say like a shorts and t-shirt kind of, but like just casual.
Like blue collar. Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like most of you already know what this is. Car Talk, it's a very famous NPR call-in show. I wanted to start with what they stopped making new episodes in 2012. However, it turned into, after 800 plus episodes, it's absurd the amount of hours that they dedicated to this. To a very noble cause. The whole idea of the show was people own cars and you usually have to pay money to a mechanic to find out what's wrong. So why don't we just have a radio show where two guys that know what they're talking about can give that information away for free? Like, what a great idea. This went on for a long time, made a lot of content, stopped in 2012, and still to this day, it is a wildly successful podcast because people like hanging out with these guys, and it's just repeats of old radio broadcasts.
They don't do it anymore? Is it?
They don't do it anymore. Yeah,
Oh.
stopped
Well,
it.
the other brother died, so they couldn't really continue with one voice.
Could you imagine that energy with how that would shift if they brought somebody new to replace a dead brother?
Nah.
It wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Like the magic is in a bottle. Yeah. But I wanted to share this. Obviously, that's a radio show. That's now a podcast. That's still extremely popular. Still today, 3 million listeners. Still crazy popular. Because a podcast can be anything. Anything. We're going to get into some later that are completely fictional nonsense podcasts that actually really work. Because they, as long as you can trigger the imagination, that's all you're looking for. So, all right, that was example one. Here's the next one. It's going to be very different.
What is up, Daddy Gang? It is your founding father, Alex Cooper, with Call Her Daddy. Cardi B, welcome to Call Her Daddy.
Hi, Daddy.
I have to tell you, you have been on my dream guest list since I started the show. So to be here with you, no, it's like, you don't even get it. It's an honor. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Very excited. We need to talk about your outfit.
Yeah.
How did you pick this tonight?
Well, I wanted like to do like a jersey, but I wanted like to do like my style and stuff like that. And I was like, well, I mean, like, I was calling my man so I could show him, but he's asleep at this time. You know what I'm saying? He sleep right now. He go to sleep right early.
So on the back of that jersey, what is the name?
Mr. Diggs.
Congrats, you look very happy. The jersey is fucking amazing.
It's so cute.
Okay, wait, so I heard you had a late night last night, almost into the morning. You were at the studio.
Yes.
What were you doing?
No, I wasn't at the studio. I was actually doing a music video with Kaylani. And we finished like around 5 a.m. So I got like in like at 5:30. And we did like freaking 5 wig changes. And I'm like, I don't know how am I going to wake up early in the morning. Like, I am so tired. It was like 7 different scenes.
Are you a night person?
I am a night person. But I was up from 6 a.m. to all the way to 5 a.m. So I was just tired.
Okay. Does anybody recognize? Also, welcome. Hello. Hi. We're into like we were just talking a little bit about like podcasts, what they are, a little bit of background about us. Now we're doing some active listening to try to hash out exactly how to identify what elements in the production of a podcast work, and like how to learn from the other creators in the space. Essentially, is what we're doing. Does anybody recognize that podcast? By the way.
Yeah.
Hugely popular, world famous. It was like you know this one?
The Call Her Daddy?
Yeah. It started as a sex advice podcast, insanely popular. Now I think it's still number 7 in comedy. Routinely tops the top 5 podcasts globally. So we were doing the active listening thing. What have you noticed? Like, tell me about what you heard.
It's a very chill conversation.
Yeah.
I know Cardi B and like how the conversation goes. So kind of already maybe I'm biased towards how it is going to go, but it's so chill.
Was it actually her, or was that a comedic?
Cardi B, that was actually
That
Cardi
was,
B.
okay.
Yeah. There's a video component to this. You can watch it.
Okay.
I think Cardi B's. I like her music, and I think she's hysterical.
Okay.
But
Alright.
Excellent quality in terms of, you know, they were obviously in a space that didn't have any ambient sound leakage or anything like that.
Yeah.
The microphone sounding good.
really
Sounded
tightly
slick.
produced.
Yeah.
Did you notice the first question was like, welcome to the show, I like what you're wearing, like talk to me about what you were doing in the studio the other day. I cut it off right there, I wanted to get that last question in there, are you a night person? Like that shift from professional, I'm talking to a musician, I want to hear about what you're working on, look at how you're presenting yourself, to what are your sleeping habits? And it's all like couched in, there's, like, I'm not the target audience for this podcast. I'm not like a big Call Her Daddy listener. If she was to, Alex Cooper, the producer, host of this, if she was to make her podcast more welcoming to somebody like me, she would drain half of her audience. You know what I mean? You can hear that like secondhand slang, that way of talking that I think, I'm going to speak generally, like a woman listening to is going to connect with immediately, and a guy like me listening to it, it's going to take like a little bit of work for me to like learn another kind of language, another way of relating to somebody to really hook on to, which to my credit, I should probably learn.
It's also like the energy
Yeah.
and the conversation is so fast. Like she went through 3 topics in like 2 minutes. You
Yep.
know, like what could have been a 10-minute discussion about what she's wearing was just like 40 seconds. Now we're jumping to like the studio stuff. Now we're jumping into the night stuff, and it's so quick.
She's fabulous. I really respect her a lot as a creator in the space, and she's like a multi-millionaire based on a podcast, which is wild.
Which every podcaster gets.
Yeah. Okay, we have 2 more. Maybe I'm going to skip the next one because I think it's really common. You know what? I'm going to make this one a little shorter.
Wait, you're
You know this one.
You're
listening
to Radio Lab.
Radio
From
WNYC. Hey, I'm Chad Abumrad. This is Radio Lab. Robert's traveling today, so it's just me. And today...
Okay, I don't want to run out of time. I'm going to skip ahead. Who here knows what that was?
listening to it right here.
Radio Lab. You used to listen to it?
I was listening to it while I was driving.
Oh, awesome, nice. So we're doing active listening. What'd you notice? Like, tell me, why do you think a producer made the decision for such an elaborate introduction sting?
I think maybe I'm biased because I know, because I've listened to it for years. It kind of has like, the whole point is kind of like playing with audio, so it just kind of has like that, I don't know what the word is, manufactured, engineered, like.
Yeah.
Playfulness, I don't know, layering, I don't know what the word is.
It does a lot to like set you up for how the rest of this is gonna flow.
Mm-hmm.
Like even like a casual conversation between the interviewer and the interviewee is edited in interesting ways. Voices come from different angles. It really does a lot of work to set like sonic environments that these conversations are happening, and they'll drop in. If they're in the woods, they drop in the sounds of woods behind them to really transport you to a place. And I think that I just love that intro thing. I love Radiolab. Radiolab slaps. It's so good. But I think that opening stinger does so much to set you up for what you're getting yourself into, and it's 10 seconds of audio. And it does so much to prime your brain.
It's more like an immersive storytelling kind of.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And maybe this is good even if I'm watching, like listening to it for the first time, like it sets the base. Okay, this is what I'm expecting to hear out of this.
I mean, it's like walking into a kitchen and smelling what's cooking before you start eating it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you start the podcast, you hear something like that, and you like, I don't know, I sink a little deeper in my chair, and I'm like, oh, these people are going to take care of me. This is going to be fun. Yeah. I think effort like that should.
I mean, it's kind of a trick as well, because with all that stuff going on, you've got to, it's like you're drawn into focus.
Yeah.
So you're immediately listening more attentively than you would. It's a trick.
Yeah, all the three that you played, actually they really hit the nail on the audience they want. Like they're capturing their own audience base, whatever they have.
Their niche. Yeah.
Crowd. Yeah, so that's what I felt. Okay.
I think all three of these have really good niches. All three of them. This one especially, like sonically. Yeah. All right, one more. We'll play a little bit of it.
Call me old-fashioned, but the Big Bang should never have happened. Welcome to Night Vale. It's the dog days of summer, listeners. Soon it will be the iguana days of autumn, and then the cockatiel days of winter, before finally we get to the tarantula days of spring. A year is a long time, and every season of it we must anticipate the next season, slowly wishing our lives away, one climatic period at a time. Sadly, there's nothing we can do about this excessive heat, which is what some people like to tell us, even though it seems like we've had plenty of chances to do things about it. But who am I to tell the captains of industry that science is not only neat, but also life-saving?
Okay, who knows what this podcast is?
We just put it up.
What'd y'all hear? Actually, let me ask this. From what we heard, what do you think their like niches that they're going for?
Comedy, definitely.
Yeah.
It was very witty. It felt it felt kind of not slick. It felt a little, what they were doing with the audio sounded a bit clunky, so it felt more like a basement podcast than something that came out.
It's definitely not as clean. Yeah, you can hear like the ambient. You can hear his voice bouncing off a wall in his microphone. I got notice. Yeah.
And to my lights anyway, the music went a great arresting opening sentence. It was like, oh, here we go, and then way too many seconds of nothing, and then he comes in and the audio just like the background music just dropped out. It felt clunky.
Clunky. All right. Valid. Anything else? Any other observations?
I did kind of like how he had let the I don't know how to phrase it. Like kind of let the beat ride out while he was still talking. Kind of like phases from one into the other.
A bridge at it.
There you go.
There's another one like honestly, if you ever watch I could say like go to film school, but honestly like go to YouTube and look up videos about editing practices in movies, and a lot of the psychology behind a good cut in a movie also applies to audio. Like you just said, letting them don't cut the music and then start the audio, or don't cut a person talking and then start a person talking. If you want to sound like a conversation, let that overlap a little bit. Like or let somebody inhaling cut into somebody else beginning a sentence, and it sounds like it's a more fluid thing. And you can totally engineer that kind of like authenticity with audio editing. You can make that kind of stuff happen. I only mentioned the
So you said engineering authenticity. Like,
you literally can. Yeah. You literally can. We're all easily pullable. What was I going to say? Oh, so I can hear the guy's voice bouncing off the back a wall in the room. It feels like a lower budget kind of an enterprise, because it is. It's a couple of guys made this weird science fiction, Lovecraftian horror comedy, alternate reality podcast. You're essentially listening into like news broadcasts from another world, and it's a great satire. Named one of the top 100 podcasts of all time by New York Magazine. Wildly successful, massive audience, make lots of money. They were actually just here in Phoenixville. They filmed a live show at the Colonial like 2 weeks ago, I think. Hugely popular, and not even like I think it's a polished podcast, but it's not that polished. Like you could make this with a Yeti microphone and a MacBook and GarageBand, their podcast. So that's what I'm saying.
They probably did.
They probably did. Okay, so do you have anything to add to the examples, or I feel like I've been doing most of the talking. Sorry.
No, you're good at it. No, I don't. I think that your example showed like a good diversity of styles that you can do. So like podcasts aren't just one thing. Podcasts are everything and nothing. You can make it however you want it, and the tools are there to do it.
So we're gonna bust out a couple of simple rules, just because I was told it's always nice to end on a list. I don't know if that's good advice or not. Let's do some like really high level simple rules, and then we're gonna get into opening up some editing software for the last like 10, 15 minutes. We can answer some questions. So rule number one, actually make a thing. And I don't mean, read this on two levels. Actually make a thing as in like, you probably have free software on your computer already that can edit a podcast. Use the free software. Don't spend a bunch of money, learn the basics, just make a thing. Make a thing, see how it turns out, and don't feel pressured to put out the first thing that you make. You don't have to learn publicly. You can learn privately and then put out the first thing that you're really proud of. But just make a thing. You could also read actually make a thing as what rule number 2 is, which is the thing I've been hammering on all night. I'm sorry to be so repetitive. When you actually make a thing, like intentionally make the thing. You're not going to stumble into this by accident. If you think about your topic, your niche, if you have a defined audience in mind, if you understand what the competition is, like I said at the start, none of this is going to guarantee you an audience. It's really hard to get an audience as a podcast. But if you're not a weirdo in a basement throwing raw audio up on the internet, you are already better than 70% of the competition. If you're being intentional and actually trying to make a thing, you've got a shot. Like you can do a thing, and it can turn into something. I know people that had podcasts that after a couple of years of doing it and never really having an audience, they just took their body of podcasts and turned it into a book, and then the book sold gangbusters. Because it turns out that 200 hours of podcasting they did was also really good research. Like, you never know where this stuff is going to go. So just make a thing. Be consistent. This is about quality. This is about like the tone of your voice, how you present yourself. If we had that little exercise earlier about like whatever idea for a podcast you have in your brain right now, what is it wearing? How does it present itself? If I meet it in an alley, will I be scared or will I be excited? You know, those kinds of questions. That should be consistent, but also like from a release schedule perspective. If you're going to tell your audience I'm releasing, bi-monthly, you better release bi-monthly. Like, keep at it. The first time you don't follow through on a promise that you made to them, the more likely it is that they're just going to drop off. So, especially I think when we started Stabby years ago, we were originally a bi-weekly podcast, and only, 6, 8, 9 months into it, we finally realized, like, we're getting pretty good at this, the production side of things is getting easier, let's switch it up to weekly. And it wasn't until we switched to weekly that we actually started finding an audience.
Yeah, and I know like if I listen to a show and it releases on Mondays and it's not there on Mondays, I'm might not go back because
Kicks his little feet.
Which, yeah, it's ruined my routine, you know, and I'm a creature of habit, and I think most people are, that if you change something, it's hard to get everybody back.
And the last rule, keep growing. Again, this is multifaceted. I don't mean growing like your audience or whatever. I mean that, like, let's say you get 3 months into making your first idea, and you have all these new skills that you're excited about, but the topic that you picked is wrong, or the music that I picked is wrong, or the vibe that I picked is wrong, or whatever. I think it costs $15 to get your podcast on the internet for everybody to download. Start a new one. Just like start a new one. Grow into something else. Bail and keep moving. I don't know. I would just, so the keep growing thing isn't necessarily about an audience or your podcast, but it can be, but it's also like you as an individual are going to change and evolve and grow. Making a thing, like no matter what the creative endeavor, if you're learning to paint or if you're learning how to make podcasts, you're going to be a different person in 6 months or 9 months. You're going to have grown. Keep doing that. Like keep chasing your bliss. I think that's the end of that.
Yeah.
So we can get into the mechanics of like moment to moment. What do you click? What does it look like to do a thing?
Yeah.
Unless anybody has any questions, we're not. I mean, we do this professionally, but you know, I'm not like a doctor of podcastology, so I don't know.
One day.
For a starter to record, what do you suggest? Like having just talk to your own laptop, or like you suggest getting a microphone? How do you record this thing? Through your phone?
I mean, when we started Stabby, my microphone, I think it was like a $30 Yeti Snowball.
Yep.
So like just bought it on Amazon, but it's USB, like plug it right into a computer and just record through that. I think like, again, it depends on what the style is you're going for. We wanted a little bit clearer audio, so you'll get that through a microphone than just like recording with your computer mic or your phone. So it kind of, it's whatever works for you, and really, you can do it from just your phone. A lot of people do it from just their phone. So it just, whatever works for you. But there are budget microphones that you can get if you don't want to, you know, I used the $30 one for 4 years, and then I finally was like, I should buy a different one, and spend like $200. So it's just kind of whatever works.
You're lucky you live in Phoenixville. Mark has curated an excellent library of things, and part of our library of things is a getting started podcasting kit that comes with a microphone, that comes with a board. So if you just want to take something home and play and see how it works, that's a great place to start. Starting with your phone mic is great. I would say that, like, yeah, we start with really basic mics. It really doesn't take a lot of money to get audio that you can then clean up. It doesn't matter really if it sounds awful. I mean, it matters if your audio is peaking, that's kind of unrecoverable or whatever. But if a thing sounds a little tinny, you can like rosy that up in the production software. Again, there are tutorials, lots of tutorials online on how to do that. I don't think we have enough time for me to talk about all the aspects of like cleaning audio and stuff like that. Like GarageBand, if you have a Mac, it comes free on your Mac, and that it built in will do like leveling, will do mastering, will do noise cancellation. Like it'll get you 80% of the way there without having to pay a penny. And there are plenty, like I'll bet you, again, the Welcome to Night Vale, they make money on that. They have a huge audience, and I mean, maybe now it's not edited in GarageBand, but it sounds to me like it was edited in like Audacity if you're on a PC, or GarageBand if you're on a Mac. Yeah.
That's all right. I got Audacity because
Yeah.
I read some recommendations for that because it's free and all that.
Audacity slaps. I love
okay.
Audacity.
All right, so that's adequate for.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay, so I'll show you. I don't think we have time to get into all the. Can you see this? Okay. Yeah. To all the nitty gritty of everything that's going on here. So I'm using Logic Pro. Logic Pro is GarageBand's like great grandfather. Like, I don't want to say like dad. It's a little bit more than that. You can do just about anything. You can score films. You can produce music. I used it to edit podcasts. There are a couple of keyboard shortcuts in this software that I adore that aren't in other software. Like for instance, I can make a whole bunch of edits, and then let's say I don't want these and this is gone or whatever, I can hit this shortcut, Shift F, and it just grabs everything in front of this bar here all at once for all of eternity. No matter how many edits I've made, it'll just grab everything. and then I can just scoot it this way, and it moves as a unit. And I don't have to worry about, oh, I moved this person's talking away from this person's talking, and now the conversation's out of sync. It just lets you do it. If I remember right, GarageBand doesn't have that. So every time you're trying to ripple a conversation forward because you had to cut out a chunk, you've got to zoom out, select everything, drag it over. That, when you're editing for a podcast, flowing audio to the left as you're cutting stuff out, that is 80% of your editing work. It's so much of your editing work. I think this is, I chose this file because one, I'll show you a little bit. It's a little extreme where this goes. So I'll clarify. Stabby. Yeah, we're gonna do this for people. So Stabby is, it's a movie podcast where, like I said before, we try to appreciate weird, old, obscure cinema as historical artifacts, as cinema history, as like legitimate lessons learned in film that deserve to be taken seriously as art objects. We all record in separate rooms. In order to make, one, I guess from a formatting perspective, for our niche, there's a lot of movie podcasts out there. A lot of them are people in a basement chit-chatting. We wanted to set ourselves apart from that. We wanted a more specific niche. I grew up watching Mystery Science Theater 3000. I love the idea of talking about movies being nestled in some kind of meta-narrative where there are like characters, like there's opportunities for little skits, environmental storytelling. I loved all that. So, I don't know, after like 2 years or 3 years of making Stabby?
149 episodes to it when we shifted.
We started this whole narrative thread where the three hosts were wandering through the woods one day. We stumbled down an abandoned well after some fried chicken, if I remember right. Yep. And we open a hidden door that reveals a bunker, a mole hole, we come to find out. It's like an abandoned 90s era blockbuster, underground, that's managed by an anthropomorphic mole man who torments us with movies. So that's like the narrative wrapper around what is essentially a movie podcast. But at the start of every episode, you get a little skit. At the end of the episode, you get a little skit. And then in the middle, occasionally we'll reference those outside sandwiching jokes. And one, it makes it way more interesting for us. But two, it also really helps us to stand out against other people who are like, usually it's just bros hanging out in a basement. Like we're just trying to change that up a little bit.
And it's we changed how we kind of did the show 149 episodes in, which is nuts. But that middle section, is the same thing we used to do.
Yes.
So like we did change style, like our style shifted, but it wouldn't be dramatic to our audience.
So I wanted to show this file specifically because I think a lot of people starting out aren't having multiple hosts recording in the same room. It's probably going to be over a Discord call or a Zoom call if you're going to have more than one person in there. Our solution for this, I'll just isolate Greg's track here, is we all hop on the call, we'll warm up, we'll say hi and make jokes at each other until we're ready to record. And then Greg will do this thing.
Yep, I'll give you the clap. 1, 2, 3.
There, it gets a little muffled because Discord is doing its best to do a little bit of audio suppression over the call. And I guess we're not recording from Discord. We all record our own audio tracks on our local machines. So I have a high quality audio track on my computer. He has his high quality audio track on his. Eric has his high quality audio track on his machine. But then we're all simultaneously in a Discord audio call. So we can hear each other live, but we're all recording locally on our own home PCs. And then after we're finished recording, we upload all of our audio files into a Google Drive, and then we all take turns editing, like doing their production work. So whoever's producing that particular episode will take all 3 of those audio files and sync them. And this is what syncing it looks like. Now that we have his 1, 2, 3, we call clap on 4. He counts out 1, 2, 3, and then we would all clap where we think 4 would end up. So there's a nice cadence to it. The reason for that is now, like if I was to play
Clown on the cover?
Yeah,
You see that one?
Right.
Oh, you did?
Talking about Art the Clown.
So this is me asking a question and he's already answering it and it's overlapping with my question. It's because our audio tracks aren't synced up. So you need to solve for how, when I put these audio tracks on this file, how can I make it so the conversation mirrors what we're hearing in Discord, actual conversation, and not just the arbitrary start of each one of our audio files. That's what the clap solves for. So here's Greg's clap is this line right here. Here's Eric's clap. I can see it. It's that line right there. So I'm going to line that up with Greg's. And then here's my clap right there. I'm going to line that up with Eric's. So now when I hear this,
3.
Claps.
Yeah, baby.
We all got that clap.
so there you go. Now our conversation has a common starting point. All of our conversation will roll naturally. Nobody's talking early or late. Nobody's responding early or late. And from there, you just have to be very careful to not to not accidentally like take somebody's track and do this with it. And that would throw everything off. So from there, you move forward and you start editing. Here, I'll show you. So the wraparound for this, I don't know if anybody here is familiar with a film franchise called Terrifier? Horror film franchise. So every October we do what's called Salad October. It's where we, instead of talking about obscure movies, we try to make money by talking about very popular movies. Salad October.
It's a big month for us.
So at the start of this episode, the wraparound skit is at the start, we talked about, we get a spooky note from an evil clown. And we don't know what's going on. But clowns are cool, we should watch a clown movie. So then we end up talking about Terrifier. And then at the end, and the final skit at the end, a clown murders us. And we all die at the end of the podcast. And then we pick it up the next week like nothing happened. So I wanted to show...
I think we were ghosts in the next episode. That's fine.
I know sometimes this podcast gets a little blue. I'm so sorry. I'm going to avoid playing swear words
2 and 3
here, so...
I don't know. Yeah, like what's the chance of a escaped clown coming down a well, walking through a door, finding Mole Man's movie hole?
Wait, did you hear that?
It's probably Andy.
Yeah, that's what
Did Andy get a horn?
He's a goof.
Oh, it is a horn.
I mean, obviously,
Andy, is that you?
There's no horn. We're just playing it up. We're kind of anticipating what are we going to do in the edit to make this make sense. So, just to move on, because I think your environmental storytelling in Cryptid Corner will be really interesting to look at. Don't save. I'll show you what the final edit looks like. You'll see how many edits that we have to do. Logic, GarageBand, Audition, I believe Audacity. All of these editing software should have some method for removing empty space from voice tracks. So that instead of those solid bars that you saw here, you end up with these chunks where their room noise disappears, where you don't hear the squeaking of their chair or whatever. There's also going to be a lot in these conversations where, like I just did, somebody burps. You got to cut that out, or leave it in. Maybe that's a choice for your podcast. Maybe you want to hear the host burp. I kind of like hearing burps. It's fine. So here, I'll zoom out here, and I'll zoom in here a little bit so you can see. Look at how many edits. Look at how many edits. For Stabby, it's a little bit more casual. I think I can process an hour of footage in about 2 hours with Stabby. For Ordinary Unhappiness, an hour of footage can take 3.5 hours. Very different tones, very different audiences. But I just wanted to show, so we want from that. All right. I'll say this out loud. There's no actual. Do you mind if I play it? It's going to be like some violence. Are you sure?
English, it's fine.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure.
It's all good.
For those on the camera, there's a baby in the room. I don't want to. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Word. I'm very happy you're here, both of you.
Oh, thanks.
Okay. So, yeah, here.
Andy, is that you?
Andy.
Andy, you can't talk with Andy. I'll go.
Where's the chunk we just listened to?
No.
Wait, did you hear that? There it is.
Walking through a door, finding Mole Man's movie hole.
Wait, did you hear that?
It's probably Andy.
Yeah, that's what
Did Andy get a horn?
He's a goof.
Oh, it is a horn.
Yeah. All right, playing with positionality. All of these sounds and bits of music and stuff like that, there are so many hobbyist Foley sound effects artists on YouTube that just upload their stuff for free for anybody to use at no cost. So again, you don't have to pay a lot of money for this, just go experiment. But this one, Greg wanders into a room because we hear something going on in there. Greg? Oh, we should go get him. He's in the back room. We should go get him.
All right, let's
All right, here we go. Here we go. sorry, Mark. Oh, that is the sound of a cantaloupe being pulled up. And then the clown with his big squeaky shoes walks away. I had a lot of fun making that. It was super fun. Have fun when you're making a podcast.
Whenever we recorded it, none of this is in there. Like, we don't hear any of it. So, us just making noises. I could imagine, like, our wives being like, what is going on?
Yeah, so I guess to recount, the process of editing is a lot of this. It's a lot of, like...
Christmas, and there's Christmas trees all over.
I don't like this and.
Christmas.
So I'll cut that, zoom in. I don't like and.
There's Christmas.
I'll hit my Shift F, which grabs everything after it, right? And then I'll just slide this in.
Christmas. There's Christmas trees all.
It's a little abrupt. It didn't sound natural to my ears, so I'll slide it back
Christmas.
a little bit.
There's Christmas trees.
And there's a breath there, so I might like curve off that breath a little bit, so it sounds a little bit more
It happens
natural.
to be Christmas. There's Christmas trees all over.
And now I don't know why I would cut out the word and. But that's really the work of the production. Is somebody makes a mistake, somebody says, oh, like there's a lot of interviews that I do where a lot of people are nervous to talk on Ordinary Unhappiness, to talk a lot about, even though they're experts in their fields, they get a little nervous talking on a microphone for the first time for some of them. So let's say a lot, or they'll stammer or something like that. And my motivation is I want them to sound like they know what they're talking about, because they are brilliant people that have really important things to say. And I don't want the audience to get distracted by a lot of ums and uhs or stammers. So I think I'm doing them a favor by removing an here and there, or an here and there. And I also think I'm doing the audience a favor by them not getting distracted by those little verbal tics that really, at the end of the day, don't matter. Some other day maybe we could talk about, like, I do think you can communicate a lot in an So sometimes you get a little torn by whether or not an should stay or not. But those are the kinds of conversations you get to have with yourself when you're being intentional and intentionally making a thing. All right, that's enough of me. Greg, do you want to show your jams?
Sure. This will be a edited file from Greg's Cryptid Corner. If it comes up, let's see.
And then.
So the kind of gist of this is we're sitting around a campfire out in the woods somewhere typically, and I'm telling them a story about a cryptid somewhere in the world. So each episode we travel to a different area and we talk about that cryptid. So here you'll hear, or you can listen to this.
And then it was revealed, after all this time, after we're walking up the staircase, creak, 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 and we get to the top, and the killer turns around, and his one arm, his hand is totally fine, but his other arm, he has a hook for a hand.
Oh, I knew it.
So that episode just kind of starts with us in the middle of a story, but in the background I have some wood sounds, a campfire going, and this is kind of to set that like scene and put you in that, like, was it orally?
Sonically?
Sonically, whatever the word is.
Bring your
No, oral.
Yeah.
And to kind of give that that feel to it, so while you listen, and then for our music for it, and I like the style of music, so I wanted it to fit the vibe and style of the show.
Stories is kind of a reason why I brought you out here. Right? We're camping on this random farm here in Hopkinsville, Kentucky.
This is the music
because this area was the site of one of my favorite cryptid stories, and I feel like maybe it's my turn to tell a story around the fire. So, do you guys want to hear the story of the Hopkinsville goblins?
Yes, please.
Yes. Yeah.
Goblins? Absolutely. Yes.
If you said no, we would have wasted a trip, and we'd just be sleeping on a field. So, yeah. So get ready for it, because to me, I think it's a good one. It's a good one.
It's Greg's Cryptid Corner, where mysteries abound.
So kind of as the music kind of comes in, the wood sound and the campfire fade out, and they kind of stay out for the rest of the episode. And then with our intros
Hey,
over,
welcome to
we'll
another
talk, the
episode
music
of
will fade
Greg's
down,
Cryptid Corner, a
and it kinda just
podcast
lingers
about
in the
monsters for
background.
weird.
And we have one other kind of section of music as well. So I named it, it's called Chill Spooky Music. So kind of as we go into the scarier part of the episode.
Can you tap A so we can see the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me tell you about the Hopkinsville Goblins. The story of the Hopkinsville Goblins is, to me, reminiscent of movies like Assault on Precinct 13.
You can see
where
it kind
one
of
side
fades
is being
down, but it's
ambushed by
still in the
another.
background to
So the encounter
give that,
started around 7 p.m.
That feeling of like tense and fear that I'm hoping to get out, but it kind of drops in and out throughout the episode every time I tell the story. And kind of with Dan's example, so in here I mentioned about like a car speeding away. So I
parked in the driveway, and they sped off to the Hopkinsville Police Department about 7 miles down the road to report what happened. Now the police later stated that...
And something like that I just do to add like style and to just make you feel part of the story. Yeah, and color. So so that's kind of like Greg's Cryptid Corner. It's a very similar editing style to Stabby, but it's more environmental color, yeah, than what we do on Stabby. So.
Which is usually like explicitly narrative or story or scared or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. I guess another thing to shout out, I'm glad you called out the campfire sound effect, because I think there was like an early edit of Greg's Cryptid Corner where maybe it wasn't intentional, it was early, it was like a sketch, but the fire sound went through the whole episode.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. You're gonna get real tired of hearing a sound for 30 minutes. Don't do that. Yeah, be intentional. It works in a spot, and it will work in that spot. It's not gonna work on the whole thing. And also, like, I guess can I show one more thing? Any questions about any of this?
Yeah, I actually had a question. The one tab on Stabby said movie audio.
Oh, movie parking lot.
Was that audio from a movie?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you work that? Are you allowed to, like, as far as like...
From copyright laws?
Yeah.
Copyright laws, as long as you're talking about a thing.
About it.
Yes, yeah. Then
reviewing.
it's commentary, that is, you are perfectly allowed to use clips and stuff like that.
Because my idea relied heavily talking about soundtracks.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay.
Actually, is this still the Terrifier thing? Here. So this channel right here is movie audio. These are all the clips that I use from the movie, and there's a bunch of them. It's probably like, I don't know, it's not maybe like 4 full minutes of the movie spread out over a bunch of 15-second cuts, and it's usually like, I'll be describing, actually here's an example of that kind of cross-cutting.
A nearby building, and Tara sweet talks the janitor to allow her to use their bathroom.
Maybe that guy has a bathroom that you can use.
So yeah, like one picks up right after the other thing, and we're talking about a movie, and it would be boring if it was just the 3 of our voices, and we have an object that has sound. So why not let the movie tell its own story from time to time? It's like another character.
That's a really good show.
Yeah.
No, yeah. And we upload all of these, or we don't upload all of Stabby to YouTube, but we've uploaded a lot of them to YouTube, and never once gotten a copyright flag. Again, you're allowed to comment on a film. You're allowed to.
YouTube's pretty, they're pretty aggressive with copyright.
Yeah. As long as you're talking about the thing, we're reviewing the thing, so you're allowed to use. I mean, there are plenty of like YouTubers out there that will just straight up use the footage. I've like watched movies on YouTube where the guy's just doing like a react video to it, and I can't believe how much of it they're using. I don't think we should be abusing it, but yeah, I mean.
I think they cannot monetize that content if they are using more than 10. Like, I don't know how many minutes you can use it, but for more than.
Yeah, there's certain rules around it, and because ours is just audio, we're not relying on YouTube for anything. I think our rules are a little different. Music might be different, so you might want to look into, like, I think you mentioned, like maybe soundtracks.
For like a video game.
Yeah. So yeah, I would just look it up. But I know with like if you're reviewing or talking about it and not just putting a video up or it's just the song and that's it.
Yeah.
So if you're adding more to it, then the rules are a little bit easier.
So this is an edit file from Ordinary Unhappiness. You can see the sheer number of edits that go into this, clipping out pauses where we have to maybe think about something or look something up, or somebody says or a bio break, or I don't know if you've ever like listened to somebody that's used to like a pedagogical environment where they're speaking or teaching, and they'll be like mid-sentence, and then they'll make their point. When you're making, like in a classroom, that physicality can carry it. And I don't want to tell them don't do that, because this is the way they're used to speaking. But when I'm editing a podcast, there's no physicality to carry it, and worst case is a listener might think my headphones just disconnected, or the audio glitched, or the producer screwed up, or something like that. So like lots of those kinds of pauses that feel a little unnaturally long, I'll tighten them up. Sometimes somebody's on a roll and they're going really, really fast, and I think they breeze past a point that actually should be sat on for a little bit. I'll grab that moment and I'll stretch it out a little bit, and I'll maybe have a musical break in there, and then I'll let the rest of their thought carry through. It's like an example of what these musical breaks would be let's see, somebody makes like a really beautiful, or is making a very beautiful point.
They say, if you lived here, you'd be home by now.
Yeah.
I feel like, which is, paradoxical and infuriating, particularly if you're in gridlock, right? But I feel like every one of these identifying gestures, which we both are compelled to make, but which are compelled upon us, and which we desire to have arrived, but also they kind of lock you into a trajectory of never arriving at the thing. They feel like so many appeals that are underwritten with the tonalities of, if you just were this thing, you'd be home by now.
And then listen to this.
That gives me a very lovely segue into the next two passages that I want to read, and I want to read them.
So nice. If you heard that whole point, it's actually a really beautiful point that he's making there. Lacan's mirror stage. There's some really, I love Lacan. There's some stirring stuff in there. It's worth reading if you can stomach it. I wanted to show some of these musical stings because I think there is, when you hear this music in isolation, if I waited until there when the piano ends and then have the person start talking, it would sound weird to my ear. If I have it cut in too early, if it hits that piano note and then she immediately starts talking and she's kind of sonically fighting with the sound of that piano, or interrupting like a moment where I get to sit and think about this, or like let it hit home, that would feel weird to me. So there is, this is a better example. There are like little cues. It feels stupid to pay attention to this stuff, but it does matter. There are little tiny cues in music where, in our theme song, there's a xylophone that plays. Here we go. Play it in isolation. And I'll ask you, well, I guess you're going to see it because it's right here. So here's the music. There's a very particular note that I look for where her voice starts. And it happens that that note kind of ties up to the timbre, like the same level sonically that her voice rings at, is also at that same point as the note. So it's like when this note hits, her voice hits, and it kind of rhymes in a way that feels good in my gray matter, but I couldn't describe to you. It's just like the feel of the thing. So there it fades out because she's going to start talking. When you hear that xylophone, donk, 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 donk. Oops. That note, that note right there, that is where her voice comes in every single time we make an episode.
You're listening to Ordinary Unhappiness.
Like the new instrument is introduced, the new voice is introduced.
Pop culture.
It also feels like the instrument in that track, it feels kind of like a voice interacting with the rest of the backing band. And here she is introducing us to the podcast, doing their welcoming things. I know that kind of stuff, it sounds a little woo for me to be talking about like trying to be intentional with even little details like that. But like your favorite movie, the composer sure did. Like you'd be blown away at the number of like videos and films where paying attention to those details, like if you think about like a swipe edit, the character turns to the left and then the shot cuts to something over there at the left. you better believe if they hung onto the shot a beat too long, or if they cut a little too early, that shot would feel wrong. But there's like a magic to getting it right where the momentum of the thought carries through and you don't even notice that the edit even happened. Like you can do the same thing with music and speech and conversation and punchline. We're constantly fixing punchlines in our podcasts. Like you can make jokes funnier, you can make stuff land better. Yeah, all right, I've been blathering.
Yeah, I think we're
at time?
So.
Are we over time? I'm sorry, Mark.
Take any questions, last questions?
Yeah, any?
I had a question about like, what's it, RSS feeds?
Yeah.
Is it just drag and drop like with the audio file or like, I don't know?
Yeah. So like we use a service called Buzzsprout. It's pretty good. I think it's something like $15 a month.
Yeah,
and you got a lot of
hours
time.
you get, yeah, so.
If you're just starting out, there are free ones out there. Just look up like podcast hosting is what that service is called.
Okay.
They will, and you could, if you're feeling especially productive, you can build a home server that spins out an RSS feed that people online can connect to, and you can host your own podcast from home with only the expense of your server.
Okay.
So that's just your electric bill. For me, I don't know. I don't want to do that. Yeah. So we just throw it up on Buzzsprout. It is literally when you're finished editing this thing, we bounce the MP3 file. I'll double check it a little, like scrub through, make sure it all sounds okay, and then you just drag it and drop it into the website. It uploads. You type out your description. I make episode art for most of these things, so we'll upgrade the episode art, schedule it. We usually have our edits done a week in advance, 2 weeks in advance. Ordinary Unhappiness, it can be like a day in advance. Sometimes we get down to the line on that one because it's more current event stuff. But you can schedule it like Stabby, Monday morning, 6 a.m. Actually, I guess 4 a.m. now. We have a friend that listens at 4 a.m. He was like, could you please move it earlier? So we moved it earlier. But yeah, we'll upload it like Wednesday afternoon. We'll like throw it up there, schedule it out for Monday, and it's done. There's lots of really good podcast services out there. Honestly, if you're starting off, you're just experimenting, and you want to see what it feels like to do this, get the cheapest one. Just get the cheapest one. Don't worry about it.
Spotify for creators is free. Now I think there's a little bit less like metrics and stuff you can get from it than like what we get from Buzzsprout, but it's free. You know, so you can drop it in there, and I think you can have as much control over when it goes up.
To Spotify?
I haven't used it, but
is that just restricted to Spotify, or it also puts it up to all the other?
Yeah, so it was. There was a free one back in the day. Anchor.
Oh,
they bought
yeah.
Anchor. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good question. Yeah.
Where do you get the music from?
For this podcast, we reached out to an online like content creator who makes these like chill, lo-fi beat versions of classical music. We knew it had to be this song, and I loved this variation on it, and they just gave us permission to use it as long as there's a line in every episode description shouting out Formal Chicken for his take on this song. For other ones, there are websites like Pixabay is one of my favorites, where you can get lots and lots and lots of tracks that are user submitted that are free to use. You're allowed to monetize it insofar as you can put it in your monetized content, but you're not allowed to just make an album of their music and make money on that.
Was that with an X?
What was that?
The spelling, was that with an X?
Pixabay, Pixabay. I don't know if this is going to go out on the internet, so I don't want to give away too many of my secrets. But yeah, I try to shout out artists when we use them. If you go on, like seriously, I remember back in the day, my training is in design and web work, videography, photography. I remember back in the day, if you wanted music for your personal project, you would have to pay a lot of money for a database, or you would have to pay a lot of money for a CD of tracks that you had technically had the rights to. And these days, if you go on YouTube and search whatever kind of music you're looking for, royalty-free, there's so many kind, wonderful people who are making stuff who are like, just use it, I don't care. I don't care. And it's not monetized, you're not gonna get flagged for anything, and it's like creative fuel. It's amazing. It's like we're in like dialogue with these other people that are making this stuff and throwing it out there. It's really beautiful. The whole thing about like copyright claims and stuff like that, music, that is hell. Don't screw around with music. Get that right. Yeah. You will get a letter from a lawyer if you do that wrong. Yeah.
I have a lot of questions.
No, please. Yeah.
I used to kind of have a podcast, and I do video editing, so it's like video and audio. But the thing that was hardest for me was figuring out how to edit the audio, like not so much cutting it up, but like for like the levels and things like that, like how much of that do you do, or like the tone of people's voices and things? Like when I read about it, there's a lot of people who are like getting rid of like the S's on the end of people's voices and things.
Yeah,
and
de-essers
I don't know,
and-
like, yeah,
yeah.
de-essers.
Yeah.
And I don't know like how much of that to do, you know?
I think that's
How
a
also.
preference thing.
Okay.
You don't
Yeah.
have to.
Okay.
There are people out, like I've seen a lot of like YouTube tutorials. I struggled with this for a long time. I'm still not perfect on it. All of my work still has work to do. I still have learning to do. If you look up YouTube tutorials, people explaining how to do this, their audio engineered stuff, oftentimes the kind of audio that they're engineering sounds so overproduced that it almost doesn't feel human anymore. I don't mind a squeaky S. I don't mind hearing breaths. I don't mind like a little imperfect speech. Because I think I do enjoy, when I'm listening to a podcast specifically, I enjoy a little bit of that parasocial connection, where not only am I learning about an interesting thing, but I'm also hanging out with the people that are talking. When it comes to like physically how to do that in the software, it has gotten way, I don't know how long ago this was.
It's like last year.
Oh, okay, word. Can I ask what software you were using?
I was using, I think it was Audacity.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
okay. Audacity stuff, since that's open source, does Audacity have plugins?
I've never.
It does? Okay. So I use Logic. Logic has an incredible, like, plethora of plugins. There's so many plugins. And I found some plugins that do a really good job at making a thing sound like a conversation without being overproduced in a way that I can, like, I built template files for each of my podcasts, and it was like, I spent 4 hours getting a thing to sound how I wanted to. I made a template out of that file, and now I don't have to make those decisions ever again. I did the work one time, and it will just apply to everything else that I make.
Cool.
So the struggle you're describing isn't like a per episode struggle. Hopefully it's work, but you'll figure it out once and then you're good. I don't think that answered your question, but.
No, it kind of did.
Okay.
At least I know I'm not alone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the technology's there to actually make it way easier, because you
Yeah.
can just get a de-esser plugin and it'll take, or like a deep breath plugin, and it can pull that out if that's what you want.
And another like important thing to note is like microphone placement is way more important to know than fixing stuff in post. If you record good stuff, you're gonna get good stuff. If you record bad stuff, it takes way more work to fix it. I've actually never worked on a video podcast. That seems really difficult.
It was really hard. It took a really long time. I thought maybe I was editing it too much, but then I saw how many edits you did, and I was like, that looks about right. So I guess it wasn't.
No, yeah.
It's just like that.
Yep. As long as it like looks and feels natural, if it feels intentional, it doesn't feel too choppy or whatever.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
good. It was good. I feel validated actually.
Good.
I didn't actually know any of that, but I did it, so that's cool. I was
Good.
like,
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. We're all self-taught here, so that's good.
Cool.
You just inherently knew.
What's up, buddy?
Yeah, sorry.
No, don't apologize. We love having him here.
Cool. It's been pretty good.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah, not
He's
too
been
bad.
entertained.
Yeah.
Anything else from anyone? Dan,
Awesome.
thank
Thanks
you.
for coming out, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Dan, great, thank you so much.